Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of CK Experience. Today, I was joined by none other than Games veteran Cole Sager. We talk about the season just gone, his lessons learned over the last few years as a Games veteran, and we kind of just reflect on some of the things that have made him the athlete he is today. Hope you enjoy.
Last 2 weeks have been really relaxed.
Yeah, what will you do now for the next few weeks? Will you train as much or?
Probably starting. Um, well, I've been in the gym. I wouldn't call it training. I've just been working out, but that's more like a lifestyle thing, right? So like the last 2 weeks out of like the last 14 days, probably 8 of them I've been in the gym to some capacity, but it's like literally just doing what feels good at the moment. But probably next Monday I'll start an actual training template kind of plan type thing, and I'll ramp that up over a 2 week period and get into the actual training probably by the first week, end of the first week of September. So probably around September 10th or so. Um, and that I'll stay on that until the Rogue Invitational, which will come up at the end of August.
Yeah. What's usually a plan when you're in kind of that little break for them 2 weeks where you're not training as much? Do you just kind of chill out, spend more time with the family, catch up on what you're missing on TV, or?
Yeah, like it's funny. It's like I get back from the cross, but I always have people every year like talk about how busy I must be leading up to the CrossFit Games, and I am like absolutely. The training is so much uh is so much bigger. A lot of the workouts are more time consuming. Maybe they're just longer workouts or whatnot. So like leading up to the games, like yeah, it's really busy. But then we get home from the CrossFit Games, and I almost feel busier because I'm catching up with all the people that I didn't see. It just seems like there's always something on the calendar, which I love. I love getting to see and connect with people. But that's what this time is. It's all the people that we didn't get to talk to, didn't get to see, go out to a coffee with or something. We try to catch up with and connect with. So yeah,
just chilling out, enjoying it?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That, man.
you're still with comp train then going into the new season, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is there
So
any
current,
kind of like, are you living out towards where kind of Ben and all are based at the moment, or will that just be when you're kind of getting to the serious ends?
would you do I go out there?
Yeah, like would you go out to where Ben and I'll be based in Boston, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. They're in
Um,
Boston, Massachusetts.
you're living there at the moment, then to kind of keep close to the coaches, are you? Or
Yeah, so I only travel out there a few times a year. Probably last year I got out there 3 or 4 times, and this year I'll try to do the same thing. Try to get out there about 4 times in the year if I can, maybe three. Um, but I'll go out there for like 2 week training periods, and I'll connect with Ben. But I live in Spokane, Washington, so I live on the complete opposite coast of the United States. And so it's a big travel, 6 hour flight from Seattle to Boston, 6.5. So I'll only get out there a couple times just because that load that travel takes on the body is a pretty big load. And so
yeah.
you just try to mitigate that so you're not running into like lost training days and whatnot. So
How do you find then training with, well, technically like an online coach then? Do you mind kind of being sent your stuff and just kind of doing it? Or is it constant back
oh
and
yeah.
forth between you and Ben?
Well, yeah, no, Ben and I mean we've been doing this for, let's see here, 16, so going on 7 years now. So we've gotten a really good grasp on like what is needed. I have also been doing this for a very long time, so I also have a lot of input, and he gives me the space to have a lot of input. And so I think that works really well. But we've definitely found what works for us. And I even think that what has worked really well for us has allowed him to better coach other athletes remotely. But that's not to say uh, you can't beat in-person training. So that's why I get out there. I'll spend a 2 week period out there. It's because he gets a chance to see everything that I'm doing, little nuances, how I move, pick up on little details that he otherwise wouldn't see. I give as much feedback on the computer as I can, but that still just doesn't make up for the fact of what the eyes can see and pick up on in a second. So usually what training looks like is I'll go out there for 2 weeks. He'll see some things, and then maybe in the next 2 month period that I'm back home, that gives some detail about how we approach the next 2 months. I go back out there, and it kind of looks like that. How we approach the year that way.
Yeah, I was actually only listening to one of the old Chasing Excellence. I think it was like our 10th episode, and they had you on.
Oh wow,
So it was
way
like
back in the day.
2017, I think. It was coming just off regionals. And
Yeah,
it was going as one of the final events. I think it was like thrusters and rope climbs. And it was a case of where you had to like send it and then some to like qualify.
yeah,
And he talks about how when you were going into the actual like workout, like in the regionals, you were saying how you're so calm and collected. That's when you work best. And he just knew, I think, I can't remember who someone says him. It's like they're vaguely in my head. They just kind of rile you up because obviously a footballer kind of background, it might be the best way to
yeah,
get you going. And he just like staring into your eyes, pulling you back into it, and you're like, "What do I have to do? What do I have to do?" And just went out and smashed it. Then
yeah,
so you
yeah,
were saying you're
yeah.
talking struggling to like look up. Um, how important is it kind of having someone in your corner that knows you like to that capacity where they know how to kind of rile you up and get you going for something like the games or
Man,
semifinals?
man, totally. I totally hear what you're saying. It's really big. It's really big. When you get at the games, like when you're in the back of the CrossFit games, you know, it's a really interesting atmosphere because what you guys see on the competition floor is so drastically different than what is behind the scenes, as far as like what's in the warm up area and how things are being approached, how athletes look, how athletes seem. We'll have a new movement announced or a workout announced, and everybody goes back into the warm up area, and you just see wheels spinning. It's just, I mean, if you were to look around, that's just what all the athletes and coaches, that's what's going on. It's just like their wheels are just spinning. How do we approach this workout? How do we maximize this? We have a short period of time. We have to warm up as well. And there's so many things going on. It's just like boom, 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 boom. In that moment, it is really easy to get lost in the thoughts in your mind and kind of the chaos of everything that's going on. You hear other athletes talking about things. You hear other athletes doubting how something should be done. Like there's so many like triggers that occur before an event that was just announced or something. Um, and you have to be able to stay calm and collected and be able to trust that you know what you need to do and whatnot. Anyway, going back to your point is having that person behind the scenes, behind your back and in your corner is so important because they're kind of a grounding factor, if you will. For me, actually, the person, the coach that I have, that I've had for the last, I think it's been seven seasons, um, in the back with me is actually my wife. And it's because she has been in every training session, for the most part, prior to her getting pregnant and having our first child. Like, since then things have changed a little bit, but um, leading up to that, for the first like 7 years of my career, she was at almost every single training session. She saw everything, every workout that was going on in the garage. So she knew me as an athlete. She knew me extremely well, and it's awesome because like we'll be in the back before a CrossFit Games event, and she'll just know exactly what to say to me. Like, and she doesn't need to rile me up necessarily either. Like, she doesn't always like give up like pump up talk, but it's just like little subtle things that she knows and she can pick up on that other people wouldn't, right? So that's why it's a big reason why I choose her. Ben could be that person, but he also has other athletes, so it works out. Like, hey, you go be the coach for another athlete. I do get to see him in passing in the back plenty, so like we'll catch up really quickly. He'll give some thoughts and whatnot, and that's really nice. But having the right person with you in the back, it's so important. So important. It's a grounding factor, and we all need that.
Yeah, on that podcast, you talked a lot about how important like a team is for you, and I suppose
Yeah.
like aside from the actual literal family aspect of being a team, it's also in that competitive and kind of work atmosphere where you're trying to train and get the most out of it. It probably like lends so much over, it makes things so much easier for yourself.
Yeah. 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 It really does. It really does.
So, do you train aside from your kind of like garage sessions when you head to a gym? Is there anyone you train with for competing purposes, like anyone going for the games as well? You might pop in there with, or is it strictly kind of on your lonesome?
Yeah. For the most part, throughout the year, it's by myself for the most part. There's I find camaraderie with people for sure. Like, their friends and stuff at the gym, doing their own thing. But for the most part, I don't really have anybody in the Spokane area who is pursuing the CrossFit Games. However, this last year was such a treat. Going into this CrossFit Games here in 2022, Katrin, David's daughter, happened to be in town, and we actually got to train a bunch together. Unfortunately, she didn't qualify for the CrossFit Games, so she came up to visit her boyfriend in town, who's just probably 35, 45 minutes from me. So we would meet up a bunch, and we got to train together a ton, and that was really special because we've been, both of us were coached by Ben from like 2015 through 2021 or something like that. So we spent a lot of time together training together. We always did games training together, so it was kind of had like this nice old feeling that familiar feeling that we've had in the past, and that was really nice. But for the most part, throughout the year to year, day to day, I tend to be by myself in the garage, or even if I go to the gym, for the most part, doing things by myself. Some people might join in, like for a workout or session, but the training is for the most part just on my own.
Yeah, I'd say it was an absolute treat having kind of Catherine back, especially like it's been what, a year since she moved on from comp train, probably not too far off.
Yeah, yeah. I think Rogue Invitational last year was kind of the around that time, so been about a year now.
Yeah, I can't imagine the fire in her belly after the same kind of rope climb workout might have been a big reason she didn't make it to the game. So I'd say it was a great atmosphere training with her, kind of
Yeah,
getting a little
yeah, it
push
was
off.
great, and she was fit. Like she was. I would probably say 50% of the time she beat me in workouts. Which is not surprising. That's kind of been our relationship forever. So
Yeah.
it was fun. It was a blast.
Yeah. Do you commonly find that some of the more defining moments for athletes, maybe even yourselves, are moments where you kind of struggle? They kind of give you that kick up the back to kind of get going.
Which defining moments are you referring to?
Just in general, like if you have had any moments where like a workout for yourself has made you kind of struggle and kind of take a step back and go, okay, I really need to take this seriously. Because
Yeah.
I know it obviously just from Katrin, this came in my mind. She had that rope climb workout back in regionals
Hmm.
all the way back.
Yeah.
And it was kind of that moment where you kind of see her kind of become the monster she became. Was there any moment for you where you felt like a workout or even a movement kind of made you kind of step back and go, okay, I really need to give this more effort?
Actually, it was a full season. It was the 2017 season. So yeah, yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, and if you go back and look at, I mean, you can see it in my body change. You can see it in the way that the which workouts I perform better in now. But after the 2017 season, Ben and I talked, and we made a very big adjustment on how I approached the rest of my career, and that was very much, hey, I want to be the fit person. I want to be CrossFit fit, um, and I was a little bit more of a like a knockoff hitter where I would do really well in one event and then maybe take a bottom of the barrel in another event early on in my career. And in 2017, the reason why it was so defined is because I felt like I would dub that as like a year of complacency, and I felt like I was just getting by. I was doing the bare minimum. I was searching for all of these you know tips and tricks and secrets, and the kind of trying to find the secret sauce, and getting a little bit wrapped up in trying to dial in these 1%, but I wasn't focusing on the main task of just working really hard and pushing the body, and like forcing adaptation from hard work. uh and because of that, like, I got to the 2017 season, and like at the end of it, I just didn't feel proud of it. I didn't feel proud of it whatsoever. I didn't have a great placement. um well, like, yeah, sure, like I made it to the CrossFit Games, but like I did not perform well, and it wasn't even about the placement on the leaderboard. And I think that a lot of people get caught up in the placement on the leaderboard, but it's more about the performance in an individual workout. That's, I think, the way that I analyze the CrossFit Games is like, hey, can you be proud in your performances based on what you know you can do? It's like that's something that
Yeah.
matters to me. And if I look back at this 2017 season and look at the games event, like I could not perform how I knew I could have had I just done the right work. When like even in this year, like I'm disappointed in the overall leaderboard standing this year. certainly felt like I had the potential to be higher. But when I go back to the individual workouts, the way that they were written and the way that the test was given, like I actually felt like I performed pretty darn close to what my preparation was, like what I'm capable of doing, the way that the type of tests that they were. It's like, that's just kind of what I had. There's a handful of misses, but that's the game of being a CrossFit Games athlete, especially a long tenure ones. Like every year you see a weakness, like Katrin, like the legless rope climbs came up. That was a weakness. You come back the next year, you analyze it and you try to figure it out. And like that's every year over year, it's like, okay, where were my weak points and how do I fix that? It's a constant solving of an ever-changing equation. It's really quite fascinating. And so that year, the 2017 season, was really the defining moment of like, okay, I don't ever want to be that athlete again. And moving forward, if I can be a different athlete that has put the work in to do his absolute best to develop a certain type of athlete, and that is a more fit, a more well-rounded athlete, um, then I can better accept whatever the outcome is. That's fine as long as I am putting in my absolute best foot forward into every single moment in the garage during the day, during the weeks, during the year. And then that allows me to put in the best effort for each event at the CrossFit Games or a regional event or something like that. So
You spoke on coming from an American football background and mainly kind of pointing. Now, I'm not going to name colleges because I have no, like, it'd be beyond me, that kind of all that aspect. But you're pushing for a college that's basically like people in your local community would say like it was out of reach. And you kind of went and done it anyway by your kind of sponsored way to it. Just being able to kind of go over them odds and know you can work to beat kind of someone's words, give you that mental drive to go even further every year.
yeah, yeah. So that's actually funny. I mean, you used the term, a second ago, defining moments, and now that you bring that up, that was actually a very. One second, my AirPods just died. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can certainly.
Okay. That was college football, and getting into college football was one of those defining moments for me. And the actual defining moment is this is interesting. Ben and I and the other competing athletes actually talked about this earlier in this year, but I do feel like throughout our lives we all have a defining moment that kind of tell us who we are, that help us believe who we are at a core. And one of those moments for me was stepping out onto the football field. Actually, it was stepping through the fog out onto the field of my first college football game. And I played at a very big university, it's the University of Washington. Played for the Huskies. And so, I mean, I'm stepping out into a stadium full of 100,000 people, and it's just thunderous and booming, and there's so much going on. And growing up, like that's the stadium that I went to and watched football games. Like that was my team growing up. Like, and it was the dream. Like I watched it, I want to be on that field. And all of a sudden I'm on the other side, stepping out of the fog and watching this like the field come into view. And that was a defining moment for me because I was like, wow, like this is solidifying that I can do what I say that I want to do and I'm capable of doing. And it almost solidifies a sense of deep belief in yourself when you have those moments. And it was amazing. It was such an amazing feeling, like a feeling that I wish and hope more people can experience, right? Like it's one of those things, not the actual experience of stepping through the fog, but the feeling of accomplishing that, having that defining moment. And because of that, because of getting to University of Washington and stepping out of that field, it's given me a lot of faith and hope and belief in my career. So even if I don't perform how I want to on the leaderboard, like this guy is just still full of hope and belief because I have I have gone through and accomplished things that a lot of people doubted and a lot of people didn't expect, and and even that I started to doubt because so many people were like, maybe I'm kind of crazy, but I'll just keep putting the work forward, and then it happens, and it's just you just got to stay consistent, you got to stay committed, and got to be willing to sacrifice things, and that's been a really fun part of the journey.
Yeah, it's especially with kind of CrossFit where a lot of people once you kind of start getting to them kind of 6, 7 years into games, people start going, You're probably coming towards the end now because the longevity isn't seen as much. So to be able to get towards where you're looking at now at your 10th potential games next year and you're gearing up, probably like it's nothing.
Yeah. No, that's actually that's a fascinating thing. Is like, and actually, it made for my funnest games experience. Yeah, it was this last year, and it's so interesting because it's like I still feel like a young and spry 20-something kid. I just got into the sport. Like there's something that still feels new to me about it because every year, like I said, it's like an ever-changing equation. So it still feels new, and I'm still passionate about it. And I still believe in myself. Like there's all of that, the hope and whatnot. But then you couple that with like the long time tenure, like 9, 10 seasons under my belt, and it's like I have deep relationships that I've built with some of the CrossFit Games staff, and I've been around so many of the athletes, and I've seen different things, and it just made for a really fun experience for me. But then it's also like now I get to step into this next season and start to solve the equation with even more knowledge and understanding. And that's really fun. It's because now I understand things from a deeper level. And okay, and this is actually something I've noticed in my recovery, because you have, as you start to age, people start to tell you that you're not going to recover as well and you're not going to feel as good. But as I've gotten older, I actually have felt better every year. I've felt fitter, I felt better. And I think one of the big points of that is the fact that I've gained more knowledge as I've gotten, further into my career. And because of that, I've been able to recover better and recover quicker when I didn't have that knowledge when I was younger. So I would beat the body down, but then not be able to recover as well because I just didn't know how. I didn't know what my body needed. I didn't know how much I should do, how much I should back off, when I should deload, things like that. But I know more of that now. So it's a little bit easier to approach.
What's something that current Cole will tell year one Cole as advice for the games then?
So what'd you say?
What advice would you give yourself starting off in the games, all them like back in season one?
I think probably one of the best pieces of advice that I could give myself back then would be to gain as much knowledge as possible. It's a you can rely on people, and like I told you, there's no like you can't beat having an awesome team behind you. But if you can deeply understand the nuances of what you're trying to pursue, you see things differently. You pick up on little details that might make a huge, profound difference if you otherwise were completely oblivious to it. And so I would say, yeah, I would tell myself like be a student of the game, study your craft, and really like obsess over gaining as much knowledge as possible. And not just of CrossFit, but health and fitness at large. Like expand your understanding of how the human body works and mechanics work, biomechanics, different things like that. And like really truly just yeah, become curious. Be a very curious athlete. I think that's gonna drive it's gonna drive you forward in a really, really good way.
Yeah, there's something really cool about kind of like with CrossFit and kind of any sport where you're kind of really pushing the boundaries of what your body can do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you see people doing backflip and it's like, oh, how do you do that? And go, can I do that? And just
Yeah,
trying to figure
totally,
out things out
totally.
slowly but surely and just kind of see
I
what.
love that. I love that paradigm shift that we have whenever somebody does something for the first time. Then all of us start to look at it and be like, oh, like how do you do it? Can I do that? Maybe I can do that. Like Roger Bannister running the sub 4 minute mile. Like then all of a sudden people are just doing it all the time, and obviously technology changes and things get faster and whatnot. But the fact that it just took somebody doing it for all of us to be like, hey, like maybe this is possible. Maybe I should give it a shot, and it's like it's a really cool way of thinking.
Yeah, we kind of seen that with the parallel bars. Everyone was kind of going from them the L sit into the overhead position. And I remember looking and I was like, could I do that? And I had like recently bought parallel bars and go, I think I could do that. And it was like second time it was like a no-go. And then like just the next time after I was like, I got this. Easy enough.
Totally. Yeah, you just gotta experiment. And if you watch it enough, like you pick up on things. And I can't tell you how many YouTube videos I watched when I first started doing CrossFit. Like I hadn't actually done CrossFit before I started doing CrossFit, right? Like I hadn't done a workout, but I had watched all of these videos because I was going to understand how these people move before I went and did it. And that was exactly what happened. It's like I watched all these videos, I absorbed it. Okay, this is how I need to move. And I went and tried it. Didn't go how I expected it to go. Went back and watched the video. Okay, this is what I did wrong, and I went back and then was able to do it the second or third time. And yeah, that's yeah, it's a fun part of the process.
Would you then be big in recording most of your own training sessions to kind of break them down and see how they went?
I wouldn't say that I spent a couple years where I recorded just about everything. Like the number of videos I have uploaded to YouTube, so Ben could watch, so I could watch. I came from a football background where you watch film. Like in football, we recorded every single practice, every single game, every single drill, and we watched them all back. So I was very much into that, into that way of doing things. But now, as I'm later in my career, I know the right things to film. If there's or I'll check up on something every once in a while, like, hey, it's been a while since I filmed this. I just want to make sure that I'm still doing it the way that I believe that I should be doing it. So yeah, I'll record pieces of my training for the most part here and then. Lifts, most technical thing, lifts and especially the Olympic lifts or high skill. Those are the things that you really spend a lot of time videoing because those are high skill and you could easily be doing something inefficiently and not know it. So those are probably the things that tend to get filmed the most.
In going back to your background with American football, would there be much overlap, like the likes of the Olympic lifts? Because I know some sports nowadays utilize like a power clean, like practice explosiveness. Would you have done anything like that that's landed over really well to CrossFit, or?
I think that just of a general foundation of strength is the thing that overlaid the most. When I first started doing CrossFit, I had one of the highest back squats when I first started doing CrossFit back in 2014. And that's just because we back squat and benched a lot. Like that's what we did in football. But we never deadlifted. I don't think. I mean, we went 4 years at UW. It's just like we never pulled from the ground. We did power cleans, and now that you brought those up, we did power cleans, and because that's a great test of just raw explosiveness and power. So, but we didn't work on technique. So that was one of those things of like, as soon as I got done playing football, started doing CrossFit, started working on my technique of my power clean up to like 25 pounds within a month. And then, and it's just one of those, it's the training adaptation for a newbie of like, oh, I finally learned the correct technique. Like that was, like, I was plenty strong. My strength didn't change. It's just my technique was better. And then I think within 6 months, my power clean was up to, near 300. And I think I maybe only did like 255 in college just because I didn't know how. Like I had terrible form. And also I had terrible mobility, but we don't need to get too far in that.
That's a longer fix. That's not a quick one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that so the biggest thing was just having the foundation of strength, and I wish that we would have pulled from the ground more. That would have been a nice foundation to build. My deadlift is still my biggest nemesis, even in my career today. So, but at the same time, like just having that general strength and athleticism has really helped in my CrossFit career.
Now, you say with the deadlift, is that down to overall strength, or is that where mobility lends into it?
I don't think it's mobility anymore, and I don't think it's necessarily a lack of strength. I think it's a lack of being able to like get the neural network connection to actually like the motor units to fire at the right time at the right rate, and keep my back locked in. I think there's just a couple of weaknesses, like I might even be too flexible in my low back because that's the first thing that bends. And I think if I was to bend over and touch my toes, like, that's the first thing that rounds is my low back. Or when I get to in range of motion, it's not my hamstrings that are the limiting factor. It's just the fact that my back stops bending. So there's weird. It's a weird nuance that I just think I need to fix and strengthen, and probably better flexibility in my hamstrings would probably help with that, so that my back isn't the thing that that is the thing that is flexing.
Yeah, I am absolutely dreadful for that. I have short lateral hamstrings, so the going joke is that I have to pull more on my back when lifting. Now, like I've gotten away with it. Like I'd be relatively strong, not in your end of strength,
Yeah.
but I still get away with quite a lot of stuff. And my coach so just mocked me, saying like you're just lower back with it the whole time. But it's like I can't do anything else. It just goes.
That's great.
But look, them spinal erectors look unreal. So you'd be sorted.
That's what I'm saying. Me too.
Um. So how has training kind of changed over the last? Is it a year and a half, 2 years since you've had your kid?
Yeah, it's almost been 18, 19 months. Yeah.
How's it shifted there? I chatted to Tim Paulson not too long ago, and he kind of gave like a window when he trains when the little lad's over in I think like kind of crash or play school.
Yeah.
Have you had to kind of limit your hours, or how's it worked for you?
You know, I've been really fortunate to have a wife who is completely bought into what I'm doing. So from that perspective, like I'm a lucky man. And because of that, that has allowed me more space to train during the day. Now I have to be careful because I do train at home and in the garage. If Jack has needs, it's hard for both of us to not want to tend to him. But first and foremost, I know that most of that lands on Genesee 100%. And, she's a saint and just a wonderful, wonderful wife for managing that and taking care of her and the other big kid in the room. That's me. But because of that, because of her, I get a chance to, be in the garage at the time that I need, and she tries to give me as much space as I possibly need in time to do things. But sometimes, it's I can feel when like the need of the family kind of weighs on me a little bit more, and I think sometimes because of that, and maybe I'll go to a gym and I'll just work out at a gym, one of the local gyms. Just to give myself that space and be in the training mode for a couple hours, and then I'll go back. And so I just have to understand myself a little bit better, and be a little bit more aware of when maybe like the family is just on my mind a little bit more, and it's so because sometimes it's just hard to separate those two things. And if I don't separate those two things and I'm in the garage and I'm a little bit distracted, it's just a distracted session and it's not as effective. So just got to be aware of that. That's one of the things that's really changed over the last year and a half.
Yeah, because we kind of seen that Andre Day touched on it. I think he literally got a flight straight from his baby's birth to the games, and then said afterwards it goes his head just wasn't there. It was in a different space.
Totally. Yeah. No, I totally get that. Like I commended him a lot. And I talking to him at the end, like, hey man, that's hard to do. But like, hey, way to be here and get after it and try and take care of the family. Because I get that, I get that your headspace can just be with the family, even though you're not with the family.
Has it been important for you to kind of be able to have your family at the games then? So when you are having them moments, you can kind of touch bases with them.
Having Genesee in the back with me is definitely that. Like I talked earlier, like she's the grounding, kind of a grounding force, grounding factor for me in the back. But we don't actually bring Jack to the games. We haven't brought him to any of the
He
regional.
doesn't get the big headphone treatment.
No, not him. Yeah, he has got a zeal for life that is, I think, unparalleled. And so he's not. He would be a bit of a distraction because both Genesee and I are in the back and we're there kind of on business and handling business. If we were to bring Jack, we would have to bring other grandparents and whatnot to watch him. And I think even then it'd be easier for our minds to be distracted of like, hey, do we need to go see if they need anything or whatnot? What if we just leave him here in Spokane with her parents? It's like, okay, he's taken care of. They'll handle themselves. Like they'll be all right. And we can dive into things ourselves. So, but it is a treat when you come home. Oh man, coming home to your little boy or, a little girl, if somebody has a little girl, like it's just an amazing feeling.
Do you ever see yourself kind of coaching him through the games in his older years?
it would be an absolute blast if he, did something that I could coach him through. But you just never know. I try not to put too much hope into things because he'll find his thing, and I'm gonna love him and support him in that the absolute best that I can. I have a hard time believing that he's not gonna have some interest in some sport, just because Genesee and I do so many sport things, and our lifestyle is very much a healthy fitness lifestyle. And I hope that he joins us for that, and that would be absolutely amazing. But if he wants to do something else, like, gosh, we'll support that and love him in there.
Look, CrossFit can be a great base for other sports. It's not a bad way to start.
I don't know what I'm saying. Great training methodology.
Can help. Because you're always in the garage, typically by yourself, you have the free reign over like the music. What's your go-to to be listening to while you train?
Actually, I got a funny story. This isn't my go-to, but recently it was probably like maybe a week out from the games, maybe 2 weeks out from the game. Ben FaceTimed me, and I had just finished a set or finished a set of workouts. And so I picked up the phone, I answered, and Shania Twain was playing, and I was doing heavy deadlifts, and he was just like, it was funny because he was like, you know what, that's fitting for you. Like, that if I was to pick one sentence to describe Cole Sager, heavy deadlifts and Shania Twain, that would fit. So no, I don't. I am very kind of all over the place. Like, it just depends on the day. Sometimes I'll listen to some rap. NF is one of my favorite rap artists. So I'll listen to a lot of his stuff, or some other Christian rap artists. Sometimes I throw it back and I'll toss on, the old Dr. Dre and Eminem playlist or something. But and there's plenty of times where I'll just toss on like a mix of modern rock or something like that. Maybe like Imagine Dragon playlist or something like that, and just kind of like let the algorithm spit out whatever it wants to, and just let it be noise. And then there are plenty of times when I just won't turn anything on, and I'll just be in my own thoughts, and I'll just kind of just enjoy the silence. So it isn't one particular thing. I'm a man of many flavors, just like ice cream. Like, you gotta like them all. I'm just saying.
Makes life more enjoyable, to be fair.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously Christian music. You're a big man of your faith. How does that lend to your training? Because I know a lot of people kind of talk about how, let's say, they'll say, "Oh, they got here because their faith, God, whichever." How does that kind of lend to your training?
Yeah, when it comes to my training, I think one of the big things is, it's not something that's lost on me that throughout my career, and maybe people don't know this, or are oblivious to it, but I started doing CrossFit with the goal to win the CrossFit Games. Like, I hadn't even done a CrossFit workout. Like, I hadn't even, like, I was stepping out of football. A friend had recommended it to me. I was very like reluctant, like, I'm not really interested in CrossFit. It kind of seems weird. Like, I'm good.
People swinging in the bars and looking ridiculous.
Yeah, doing push-ups and pull-ups with bands. Like, man, like, I played football. Like, I'm a tough guy, like, so anyways, he sent me a series of videos. He was very persuasive, and he got me into it. And I was like, okay, like, this is cool. Like, I'll give it a shot. But I hadn't done a workout yet. Like, I hadn't even done like a CrossFit workout. I had just watched a bunch of videos, found the interest. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the CrossFit Games. That's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna study this. I'm gonna figure it out. We'll go do a workout, and I'll start training for CrossFit, because I want to win the CrossFit Games. That was a goal from the beginning, from 2013 till now. That has been the goal every year. That's why I train to win the CrossFit Games. I haven't, and in the majority of the years, I don't have any come close, and that's not lost on me. But the thing that has kept me going is a deep, profound belief, hope, and faith in myself, because of my faith in Christ, in God. Because of that relationship, I have hope in what the future holds. And so I keep walking steadily and faithfully. And I just, there's a principle within the Bible of just whatever your hands find themselves doing, do it to the best of your ability. And so here I am. My hands are finding what they're doing, and I'm just doing the absolute best that I can, regardless of the circumstances. Just, this is where I feel called. This is where I want to be. So do it with all of your might to the best of your ability. And that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I only asked that because I wouldn't be someone who'd be mad towards faith, not for any reason or another, just how it is. And I've always been curious when you kind of see people kind of pinpointed towards being like one of the main motivators. And I obviously just genuine curiosity as to how. But yeah, that's a great way to put it. I couldn't have had a better answer.
Yeah, thank you.
There's just sorry, I have the bits here again, just outside my eyesight. I'm absolutely blind, so it doesn't help. So the big thing I've seen with this season is obviously it's the first or second year of this format with quarters, semis, the whole lot. And there's a bigger cry for like a universal program for semifinals. How do you feel about that? Would you prefer it, or does it not really bother you?
Do you mean something more like the older regionals that we used to have?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not too upset about the way that they currently have things. I think the one thing that CrossFit did a really good job of this year that I'd like to sing the praise of, that I think maybe is just overshadowed, is they at least they signed off on all of the semifinals programming and workouts. Now, can that be done better? Sure. I think that was the first iteration of them doing this, and we can find better ground and make the tests a little bit more uniform. And I think that's what people are wanting to find, is a little bit more uniformity. I think they did a good job of that in bringing in the one rope climb workout and the clean complex. They at least, like, we know that two, what is that? 2/3 of the events are programmed by CrossFit. So, or a third of it is. And so because of that, like I think that was just like a starting platform. And then I think moving forward, if CrossFit helps just determine time domains, movement standards, or not movement standards, but which movements are being tested, things like that, and then give those semifinals the autonomy to adjust and make changes as they see fit. I think that's pretty cool. I think it gives a little bit of the flavor of the programmers and the event owners, which is a lot of fun. You can definitely tell that the MAC and the Syndicate semifinals, those were owned by the same people. Like, you can tell, like, when I look at the workouts on the same, it's like, oh, that has your spin on it. That has a very MAC like spin to the workouts. Or like, oh, that's a very Granite Games feel. It's a very Wadapalooza feel. Like, whatever event we're doing, like, you have a sense of the programmer that's programming. So I think there's some fun to that, but I definitely think, like what you're saying, maybe CrossFit could just guide that a little bit more.
Yeah. I'd hate to see kind of identity be lost, just for more kind of obviously said, it'd be a bit disappointing heading to Wadapalooza and then not feeling like Wadapalooza, because they didn't get to put their own little sprinkle of what they have on it, but it was kind of great to see the ones they placed in, because I thought like it was really cool seeing the rope climb workout again, but like with a little twist on it.
Yeah,
that's only so much of the field. Like, there's not a lot of people that are going as long as like Catherine, who may have done it all them years ago. It's a lot of fresh blood in it, especially because you have so many people who started CrossFit when you were kind of going to the regionals, to the games at like 12, 13, and are now going into the games. I remember seeing this on the TV.
Yeah.
I think it's just such a cool moment to get with it. Just to kind of cap us off there, because I don't want to keep you too long. You're probably a busy man today. What was kind of the best moment from the games this year?
I think that the most defining moment of this CrossFit Games was the Capital event. It's just, I don't think you can deny it. I thought there was a lot of other cool factors at the CrossFit Games this year. I thought that Boz did a great job. You could definitely feel his presence in the workouts and in the programming. I'm excited to see where he takes us and guides the ship. But that Capital event is just defining. We're going to look back on all of our years at Madison, and people are going to remember that workout. And there was just something very epic and heroic about walking up the Capitol stairs with the sandbag and having the community surrounded
The
surrounded.
video of Rebecca Fuselier.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
amazing.
just insane, absolutely insane. You're going to see just some such cool footage and photos and videos throughout the years of that event, and it's really going to be the Madison tenure will be defined by that workout.
Yeah, it feels like the first year we kind of felt Madison as its own.
Yeah.
Like I feel like with California, there was really like small things like the sun, the heat that really made it California.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's the first time we've kind of felt like this is Madison. It kind of engulfed the community a little bit more.
Exactly, I agree 100%.
Yeah. Look, I can't thank you more. I sent that email out in March. I did not. When I was emailing back, I was like, I don't know if he's like on a total break. But I was like, I'm going to just annoy him as best I can to see if I can get him on. But obviously the delayed reply this morning. But thank you so much. It was a
No,
great
this was
honor to
great.
chat to you.
Yeah, thanks for being flexible at the time. This was fun to talk and share some stories, and thanks for asking some good questions and giving me a space to tell my story, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, time was actually perfect. I think it was Alex Gazan, one of the rookies from this year. We were trying to arrange it and it got cancelled last minute before the games. And she was like, "Oh, this time suits me." And it was like 1 a.m. for me. And I was like, "Oh, but this is my day. It works so much easier."
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Yeah, no, thank you for being flexible, man. So, Dean, this is great. I hope the best for you, and let me know if you ever need anything. But this was a blast, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, this is an absolute blast. Thanks a million. Yeah, I hope you have that soon.
Cool.
Cheers.
Talk to you soon.
Chat again.
You too. Bye.
Podcasts and on Instagram under @CoachCarney_. Thank you.